You've heard of Vecna. Sure you have. Everyone with a TV or phone has heard of Vecna. And I'm not talking about him today. No, today we're talking about what Vecna in Dungeons & Dragons was before he became a god. A Lich. Liches have been in D&D since the first supplement, Greyhawk, in 1975. They're an icon with their undeadliness, spells for days, ties with necromancy, and basically being near unkillable. For a quick description, as they are undead, they are usually skeletal with very little flesh or hair, usually kitted with magic items, all teeth on show, draped in robes, and a cold necromantic aura that draws other undead to it. A Lich's normal day would be pondering their orb, ordering minions to collect magic items or components, constructing dungeons, astrally projecting themselves into other planes for discovery, crafting said magic items, and studying magic tomes and spells. And also, if they feel like just crafting world-ending devices, culture-ending artifacts, and potentially messing with the fabrics of reality or the space-time continuum, they are not to be trifled with at all. Liches, of course, can be killed, but in order for them to be truly destroyed without resurrection within a few days, or 1d10 days, you must destroy their phylactery. Phylactery? Anyway, it's a funny word, isn't it? But what does it mean? Well, a phylactery in the D&D sense is an item or totem that a Lich binds their soul and life force to, imbuing it with part of them, so that it may regenerate them should anything ever happen to their body. I want to say like a Horcrux, but I've avoided Harry Potter books and movies my entire life. You know, being 8-year-old when it came out with long brown hair and glasses wasn't exactly a great time for me. So yeah, I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you if it's a comparison or not. Anyhow, a foolish Lich would have his phylactery about his person, which, that's a bad idea. No. I would recommend that if you're adding a Lich into your game, make sure that their phylactery is almost its own adventure to get hold of and destroy. So, how does one become a Lich? Well, they need to be a quite powerful spellcaster, be adept at crafting magic items, some alchemy, and capable of casting a 9th level spell, which is the max level we mere mortals can access. And oh man, is it quite the shopping list for this. Let's lay out the 6.5 step process and then break it down, shall we? 1. Have the spell Imprisonment. 2. Learn the process. 3. Create a phylactery. 4. Concoct the potion of lichdom to start the transformation. 5. Perform the ascension ritual. And 6. Arise as a Lich, hopefully. So, step 1, you need to know the spell Imprisonment. This is to trap the soul of a sacrifice inside your phylactery so that you may transfer their life essence with your own. Step 2, you need to learn the process. This can be learned as a boon from a dark god, such as Orcus, or so in a defined sense, or you can make a pact with an elder god or demon or devil, basically a being with nigh on level with a god who has learned the knowledge. Or, and this is one of the coolest ways, is to learn from the Book of Vile Darkness. Whereas your best bet to learn the ritual is most likely with the likes of Orcus, who is a god of undeath. The book, in my opinion, is much cooler. Because you see, the Book of Vile Darkness is said to have been bound by Vecna himself, where he kept his notes of all his things vile, cruel, and all manner of dark magical secrets. So not only his musings as well, by the way, and knowledge, but countless evil clerics, wizards, and even priests of evil gods across the planes of existence. Anything in proximity to the book will slowly wither and disfigure, become tarnished and rusted, or simply suck the life force from its bearer. This is an artifact of such evil, even seeing it can cause psychic damage. And it's even said that the book is sentient, hiding its knowledge from some readers and forcing them to align as chaotic evil in order to read the thing itself. Now, back to the Lich transformation. Step 3. Crafting a phylactery. A phylactery is a small token or totem, something of true meaning or care to the would-be Lich, that often recommended that they craft it themselves, as putting their own blood and sweat and or tears into it would be enough to create this bond. This normally takes about 10 days to build, and sources vary, but it should cost at least 2,000 gold pieces in value. The only thing about making a phylactery or designating a phylactery is that it cannot be made of wood. 4. The transformation potion. Oh, this is by far the most awkward part of the entire process, as some of these are time-bound, and there are many parts, so it's a heck of a shopping list. A vial of wyvern's blood killed in the last 5 days, a vial of pure arsenic, a crushed unicorn horn, a clove, would it be a clove? Of crushed belladonna? I think you would call it a clove. Manticore venom, a pint of griffin's blood, a pint of vampire's blood, a pint of ale that has had your spellbook bathed in it, and finally the heart of a sacrifice humanoid who has been sacrificed within the last hour. Now that is a cocktail for the ages. Part 5. Perform the Ascension Ritual. The Ascension Ritual is hazy on its info. It's hard to find the solid sources of the exact process, so I think that's cool to leave up to you as a DM to put your own spin on it, but it kind of boils down to essentially the person dying. Because, you know, to be an undead, everlasting being of magic, you should be dead first. It's in the name. There is some unofficial sources that add great flavour, particularly the author of a page on the D&D wiki which outlines possible D100 failures and lingering effects and how the DC to perform the transformation is lower under a full moon or in an area surrounded by magic essence, such as a magic tower or something like that. But it boils down to having your phylactery ready, drinking the potion from the body of the sacrifice, and dying and then arising 1d10 days later in a space next to your phylactery. Bada bing, bada boom, you're an undead with undead traits like immunity to poison, not needing to breathe, having magical glowing red eyes, additional necromancy spells, no longer aging or needing to eat, sleep, or drink, being proficient in con saves, and much, much more. Undeath to that degree is probably something your players might or will aspire to. It's up to you whether you allow your PCs to go for it or not. Some have said that it made logical sense for their characters or player characters and that they tweaked what the transformation would do to them. This I would highly discourage because a Lich PC would be broken. Now, back to the Lich in your game. Liches are spellcasters at the end of the day, and as such, they aren't the meatiest of beings. This is reflected in their low for their CR hit points. See, remember that evil undead aura I spoke about earlier? Well, that almost attracts other undead and evil beings, which Liches can then recruit as minions, guards, or pets. So, another little DM note here. To balance the lack of hit points or HP, use brutes to soak up the hits from your players to make your Lich last longer. Maybe throw a few vampires, zombies, mad cultists, heck, flash golems or bone nagas. And if you want to be particularly mean, maybe have a few spellcasting lackeys skulking around in the shadows using their reactions to counter the spells of the PCs. Because nothing ramps up tension more than the big heavy-hitting spells being completely nullified and everybody panicking. I want to touch on a great thought that the dungeon dudes had on Liches, which to me is top notch and would really brain scramble your players, is that Liches don't need to breathe. So as clever as they are, wouldn't Liches just fill their dungeons with toxic fumes and gases to really ramp up the difficulty of trying to get in? I can't even think of an easy way around that. I'm sure there's a magical item for it, but that's going to take some prep. Liches being CR21 also have, layer actions, legendary resistances, and oh boy, that resistance to non-magical slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing is heckin' hefty. They have straight up immunities to some damage as well, so that's really going to slow down taking these bad boys out. But still, at the point that your PCs are facing off against them, I'm sure they've got magic items. Don't be discouraged to put in a couple extra minions or brutes or whatever alongside your Lich. It might be intimidating at first to actually run that many monsters as well as your big bad, but remember, this is supposed to be difficult for your players. And the thing is as well, when they're minions or brutes, you don't even need to make them that hard. Just give them decent attacks, not so much decent power for the brutes at least, but make them a big bag of hit points and the players will cop on that they really should, focus the big bad. Now, I want to cover some famous Liches because, well, they're cool. Acererak. Acererak is a plane-hopping Lich who was born a Cambion. His father was a demon and his mother a human. And if you have the Tomb of Annihilation supplement, you will find that he is actually on the... Actually, hold on a second. I got a better idea. Okay, this is the better idea. This is a Serac. He's on the cover of Tomb of Annihilation. He's also, I didn't realize this until I actually went and grabbed this book, on the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide. That's him. Yeah, didn't realize that until I actually checked that out. Anyway, Serac is also unique in that he's a demi-lich. Demi-liches are liches who have not fed their phylactery sufficient souls, and as such their soul is deteriorated as well as their undead body. This is normally where the liches start to go a bit loopy, as if they do not feed their phylactery, not only do their body and soul deteriorate, but their minds too. But a Serac is prepped for this. You see, a Serac is a dungeon architect, and he has crafted his dungeons in such a deadly fashion and with soul conduits that absorb the souls of any who perish within his dungeons. This energy is then transferred to his phylactery, so he's found a bypass to constantly having to go out and kill people. He just puts a ton of gold and magic items at the heart of a dungeon and let the reckless adventuring types come to him. It's like a perpetual soul source.
A Serac sets things into motion and then kind of steps away and leaves you to face the true villain, which is the tomb. Sets all the traps in motion and then just lets them die horribly. And it's the tomb that you're up against. He's the guy who builds the place that tries to kill you and then walks away.
Really, you don't matter to him?
No, you don't. That's part of his personality, is you are just soul energy to him. You're a monster energy drink for a Serac, you know.
You don't talk to your monster energy drink.
No.
Also, wee fun fact about Serac, he was apprenticed to Vecna himself. Vecna seen a lot of himself in a young 10-year-old Serac back in Greyhawk, and as such, took him under his wing. Now, Vecna, the OG Lich, we'll have to discuss him a little bit. Well, not actually the OG Lich, but synonymous with the monster, due of course to their abuse of the abilities granted by Lichdom to ascend to godhood. Not actually making his first appearance in D&D until after his Eye and Hand, Vecna was introduced in Supplement 3, Eldritch Wizardry, in original D&D back in 1976. Vecna was actually born a human, the son of a witch priest, servant of the god serpent Moxlix, I think it's pronounced. I'm not going to go too far into Vecna's history here because there is far too much there to cover in this video. But I will say that the devastation caused from his escape from the Ravenloft Dark Realms into Sigil was so great that it caused the change from 2nd to 3rd edition. This is WotC's way of saying that he's so powerful he changed the world. And as of late, there has been a 5e stat block made up for him on D&D Beyond, as well as new art and abilities. In this newly released stat block, he is CR 26, which isn't as powerful as some would think. However, in 5th edition Forgotten Realms, he isn't actually a god. Yet. I'm now realizing that I will definitely need to do a full video on Vecna himself, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, a couple of fun tidbits about Vecna. Vecna is actually an anagram of Vance, which is a little homage to the author Jack Vance, whose magic system in his books inspired the spellcasting system we use in D&D today. And the second little tidbit, and spoiler warning for Campaign 1 of Critical Role, skip ahead 10 seconds from now, he's the main villain in the final arc of their story. Let's give it a second for those people to catch up. Okay, hopefully those who skipped have come in and around here. Moving on. Larlock. Larlock's currently the most powerful Lich operating in the Forgotten Realms today. Larlock, otherwise known as the Shadow King, was a Netherese human. He's one of the oldest non-draconic beings in Faerun and amongst the most powerful of all its spellcasters. How powerful, you ask? Well, the last time he was statted in the game was back in 3rd edition, where he had a challenge rating of 34. And to translate that to current day D&D, a standard Lich in 3rd edition had a CR of 13, and a standard Lich now is CR 21. So Larlock would literally be near a god in power. Larlock is also unique in that, though lawful evil, they do not wish to conquer the world or take down a society or exact untold vengeance or anything like that. No, Larlock wishes to continue through the eons only to master the art of magic, seeing it as a great art form fully aware of his own abilities. Larlock can also be one of the greatest backstory origins. See, he doesn't get out too much, and so one when somebody wanders into his lair from time to time, he will keep them only to converse, and if he likes you, he will give you a challenge to retrieve or perform a duty for him. He will, of course, curse you and bind you to his contract if you fail or abuse it, but I can imagine this being the key goal of a PC that they have to get an item from a dangerous dungeon or some rare magic component or item for Larlock's collection. Fun fact about Larlock. Fun fact about Larlock. Minstrels once called him the Warlock or the Warlock King. He did not like this. He's an accomplished wizard. So he would send his minions after said minstrels to deal with them. To this day, it's not recommended to even hum the tune of the Warlock King anywhere within 3 days' ride of the Troll Hills where his lair resides. Moving on to Vlaakith, or more specifically, Vlaakith the 137th. Vlaakith is one of the Githyanki species, and said to be descended from Gith themselves. And a quick fact here, just to explain that, is that Githyanki means children of Gith, so Gith, the person, was the first of their kind. Back to Vlaakith. She's one of the only female liches to exist in D&D lore. The only other outright female lich I know of before writing this is Ostraneth, a servant of Vecna who holds his heart in her chest. There are a few others like Vlaakith, and that is mainly because any who grow too powerful around her tend to meet an unfortunate end. She's attained a position of power in our society, and she aims to keep it. She's a self-taught master of necromancy and transmutation, and she was renowned for her sheer constitution, capable of holding spells in battle or through extreme dire attacks. What's known besides her ferocious magic is that she kept odd company. Quote, I'll say this for Vlaakith, she knows how to build fanatics, but alas, fanatics are good for nothing of lasting consequence. End quote. Mordenkainen. No other way to say this except say it, Vlaakith kept an ancient red dragon as a consort. Femlon was his name, and other red dragons served Vlaakith as well, some out of loyalty, but mostly out of fear. And if you want some more Lich on Dragon action, check out the Great Lich Samaster. Samaster is in no small part responsible for the early Adventurers League content, as well as the early modules released for 5th edition. Now, these are just brief rundowns on these liches, and far more videos exist out there about them. I encourage you to check out other creators and the rest of my videos for more of these. Now, a couple last little facts here for you. Lich in Old English was the word used for dead body, so that fits in our use case. And not so much a fact, but there is a conspiracy right now going around the D&D community regarding Vecna. Now again, not going too far into this, but there have been adventure modules for 5th edition that you may have noticed black obelisks are mentioned. Mentioned a total of 5 times in fact, and in the Rime of the Frost Maiden there's a quick excerpt that talks of how obelisks like these were made by an unknown group called the Weavers, and that these obelisks were used to perform such powerful magics as teleporting civilizations through time. How is Vecna tied to these obelisks? Well, Serac has one. Vecna's followers are believed to have others, and Vecna himself stole one and learned of its magics to the point he could construct another. Did anyone say one D&D setting change? So with all these fun facts, these big bads and crazy history of liches, and how they could shape the future, and in the game itself, how will you use them in your campaigns? As with the obelisks, these baddies plan out their schemes over millennia, and are patient for the payoff. And they're patient for the payoff. If you like this, please check out my other videos. Subscribe to catch more of them, and my last video was outlining some super cool people in the D&D space. So if you want some more of this stuff, please check them out. Anyway, have a good day. Take care.